The ocean was calm that morning. From the surface, nothing hinted at what waited below. Sunlight shimmered across gentle waves, and seabirds drifted lazily on the breeze. It was the kind of day divers dreamed about: clear visibility, minimal current, perfect conditions. Nearly 100 feet beneath that peaceful surface, Daniel and Mara drifted through filtered shafts of gold light. They had been diving together for years. Marriage had come after the ocean. It was where they felt most at home, weightless, quiet, suspended between light and dark. Forests of kelp rose from the seabed like underwater cathedrals. Schools of silver fish bent and folded around them in synchronized motion. Sand rippled gently in long, unbroken dunes. Mara tapped Daniel's shoulder and pointed ahead. A dense cluster of kelp swayed in the current, thicker than the rest. A green wall stretching upward into the hazy blues. She gave him an excited nod and kicked forward. Daniel smiled behind his mask and followed for a few strokes. Then something tugged at his attention. A shape where no shape should be. He slowed, turned. At first, he thought it was rock formations, jagged silhouettes, distorted by suspended silt. But as the drifting cloud thinned, the shapes sharpened. They were upright. Upright. Daniel felt a strange tightness in his chest. Figures. Standing on the ocean floor, he glanced toward Mara. She was already halfway to the kelp forest, unaware. He raised one finger toward her, hoosed a minute, and angled himself toward the shapes. The water grew slightly murkier as he approached. Fine sediment lifted in lazy spirals around him. Then he saw them clearly. Children. Metal children. 26 statues stood in a perfect circle on the seabed. Each one roughly the same height, each one holding the hands of the next. Their small faces were turned outward, gazing into the open ocean. The craftsmanship was unsettlingly precise. Every child was unique. Different hairstyles, different expressions. Some solemn, some almost smiling, some with lips slightly parted as though mid-whisper. Coral clung to their shoulders. Thin strands of algae drifted from their arms, like tattered clothing. Barnacles had begun to claim their legs. They had been here a long time. Daniel hovered just outside the ring, breath slow in his regulator. Who would build something like this? And why here? He circled them cautiously. Broken bricks littered the sand. Large slabs of hardened concrete lay half-bare nearby. Twisted rebar protruded at unnatural angles. This hadn't been dropped here. Something had stood here. A building. A chamber. But that was impossible. You couldn't build a structure at this depth without enormous infrastructure. There were no records of offshore construction in this region. He completed his slow orbit around the statues and noticed something else. The center of the circle wasn't empty. Something metallic protruded slightly from the sand. Daniel ascended a few feet for a clearer angle. Yes, a sharp metal corner. Dark. Angular. Artificial. A box. Half buried. His pulse quickened. He descended slowly, extending one gloved hand toward it. The water felt colder suddenly. Still. Too still. His fingertips hovered inches from the metal. Then a faint vibration trembled through the water. Daniel froze. One of the statue's hands had moved slightly. He looked up sharply. Another hand twitched. The entire circle shifted. Barely perceptible, rotating a fraction counterclockwise. Tiny streams of bubbles escaped from several metal mouths. Daniel's breathing accelerated. The statues' heads tilted. Not much, but enough. They were no longer facing outward. They were facing him. Mara emerged from the kelp forest moments later, cradling a brilliant spiral shell she had found wedged between rocks. She scanned the water for Daniel. Nothing. A flicker of unease crept into her thoughts. She turned toward where she'd the last seen him, and noticed the figures immediately. She approached cautiously. From a distance, they looked like divers clustered together. Up close, she saw the truth. Metal children, arranged in a ring. Something about them made her skin crawl, despite the protective layers of her wetsuit. She swam closer. The rubble caught her attention. Concrete. Rusted beams, and something pale resting near a broken slab. She angled downward. Bones. Human bones. Her breath hitched. Then she saw it. Daniel's scuba tank lay on its side just outside the circle. His mask rested atop it. The glass was shattered inward. Her mind refused to process what she was seeing. She searched frantically for him. Then she noticed the sand inside the circle was disturbed. Dragged. Mara drifted backward slowly, heart pounding. One of the statue's fingers tightened around the hand beside it. Metal scraped faintly against metal. The circle began to move. In the years that followed, authorities quietly closed the inlet. Official explanations cited dangerous currents and unstable seabed conditions. Unofficial recovery teams had sent down remotely operated vehicles. The footage changed everything. Under normal conditions, the statues remained perfectly motionless. Days could pass without activity. But when large objects approached, submersibles drones, even heavy debris carried by current subtle movement began. Hands rose and fell in slow rhythm. The ring rotated counterclockwise at a nearly imperceptible pace. And if any object crossed into the center of the circle, the statues activated. They broke formation with terrifying speed. Jointed limbs moved with fluid coordination, impossible for solid metal. They worked together with silent precision, swarming their target. Their strength was extraordinary. Steel hull plating crumpled under their grip. Camera feeds cut out in bursts of static as machines were torn apart. In one documented incident, an autonomous underwater drone managed to retreat nearly a kilometer before the statues overtook it in the dark. When their target was destroyed, they carried fragments back. Back to the circle. Back to the center. Then they resumed their positions. Hans Hoynet, facing outward, waiting. Attempts to intercept them during their return resulted in additional losses. It was as if nothing, absolutely nothing, would prevent them from reforming the perimeter. They were guarding something. The buried box within the center was eventually partially exposed by shifting sands. Analyses of its fragments suggested it had once been part of a reinforced containment unit, designed to house something unstable. Records recovered from long-forgotten archives hinted at an offshore research installation decades earlier, a facility studying anomalous cognitive phenomena. Specifically, a subject capable of altering reality through belief. If it believes something to be true, physical laws bent to accommodate the misconception. If it misunderstood language, reality corrected itself to match the error. According to fragmented testimony, the subject began confusing elements of its confinement. The metal walls, the concrete chamber, the personnel assigned to watch it, one of whom it repeatedly referred to as child. The concept of safety, of barriers, of protection. Then came the breach. Witness accounts ended abruptly. Satellite records showed nothing unusual at the coordinates where the facility once stood. When researchers eventually discovered the statues years later, no trace of the original structure remained, except for concrete fragments and that damaged metal box buried beneath the circle. Whatever had been inside, it was gone. Or perhaps transformed. The theory remains speculative, but the statues endure. 26 metal children, standing hand in hand, facing outward, guarding the perimeter. Divers still report strange currents in the region. Compasses malfunction. Sonar readings distort near the seabed, and so many sometimes. Distant camera feeds capture something else. Movement, not from the statues, but from beneath the sand at the center of the circle. A slow shifting, as if something below is still there. Still aware, still protected. The ocean remains calm above it all. Boats pass overhead. Sunlight dances across harmless waves. And far below, in the silent pressure of the deep, the children wait, hands locked, unblinking, ready.
If this creepy story gave you chills, subscribe for more nightmares like this.